It's the world's largest motorcycle charity event, held in more than 100 countries and thus far raising over $37 million for men's health, focused on suicide prevention and prostate cancer research. Today, we continue with part 2 of an interview with my hero, Mark Hawwa, the founder of the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. Here's a glance back to part 1 in episode 15.
I started talking about it openly, and I was just overhearing this as I was walking past him. And to me, I think that's the real pinch me moment where you sit there and go, wow, like, we're not the guys that are trying to be harder than we may appear. We're not the guys that are trying to be something other than what we actually are. We're a bunch of guys that are totally comfortable in our skin. And I think we're also an event that's making it easier for guys to be more comfortable in their own skin, being more comfortable to talk about their mental health, more comfortable to talk about their struggles, and most importantly, more comfortable to reach out and get that support they need.
So stay tuned for part 2 of my fascinating interview with Mark Hawwa, a distinguished gentleman. Recorded in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. Welcome to Peace, Love, Moto, the podcast for motorcyclists seeking that peaceful, easy feeling as we cruise through this life together. Are you ready? Let's go.
More comfortable in their own skin, being more comfortable to talk about their mental health, more comfortable to talk about their struggles, and most importantly, more comfortable to reach out and get that support they need.
Yeah, fantastic. And I, at least for me, too, again, participating for the first time last year, what just struck me was how everyone dressed. And I knew how to dress. My wife went along as well, and we dressed the way we were supposed to. But others, oh my goodness, they just blew it out of the water as far as style and dapper. I just thought it was fantastic. Do you mind describing how? In my own notes, I wrote a note here. It's to myself. Unlike a masquerade party, people are showing their true selves in this cool and this whole cool factor thing. Is that your impression of how this goes when you attend these events?
It's a difficult one, right? They're showing their true selves, because my true self is is most likely board shorts and a t-shirt, living in Sydney, Australia. And it's quite funny because when I meet a lot of people, they sit down and go, "Oh, we expected you to be in a suit," and I'm like, "Well, no, I am in a suit, but it's the right time, the right place, and the right occasion." And obviously, the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride and Drive are 2 of those occasions a year that I will put a suit on. I think for me, it's a different expression. It's an expression of where people on these motorcycles. And I think what tends to happen and what we see a lot here in Sydney is a lot of people in their cars, they see a person that's got a full face helmet and they lose that connection of the fact that that's another human being. They can't see a face, they can't see a smile, they can't see warmth. They see something for whatever reason that they feel is more sinister. And I think for me, the perfect part about the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride when I started it was, let's try and, for those that are comfortable, wear open face helmets so that they can see that there's a smile underneath that. It's not a frown. It's not someone that's angry. It's not someone that's dangerous. But let's couple that with the fact that let's put some suits on, because if we're going to sort of get attention through the streets of Sydney and through the streets of the 64 cities in the first year, let's show them that we can be your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your auntie, your uncle, your friend, your boss, your fellow worker. It's not some random sinister, person riding this motorcycle. It could be your neighbor. And that was a key part in that first year of just, how do we break that narrative? How do we break the stereotype and show them that these people, just because they ride motorcyclists, are no different to you and I?
Yeah. I love it. The next path I'm going down is not only motorcycles, but you shift gears a little bit also, and to include in the other half of the year, the Distinguished Gentleman's Drive. Would you mind sharing where that idea came from and how it might parallel or be different from DR?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I was always into cars before I was into motorcycles. Motorcycles was this this moment where I woke up and thought, you know what, I really want to get my motorcycle license. And I don't know where it came from. I must have had an amazing dream. It was just, I just woke up and wanted a motorcycle. And so I've only been riding since I was 25, but I've always been into cars. And yeah, my first car was when I was 17, 18, and I've always been I guess, a Japanese car enthusiast, primarily based around Mazda rotaries. Quirky engine, fantastic machine, and just something slightly different. And, I started the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, but it didn't take long to sit there and think, okay, well, once we've got this running and it's sort of working really well, there's always going to be the opportunity to bring people together using classic cars as well. So pretty much organically, it turned down into that path. And for us, we didn't have that negative stereotype that exists in a lot of countries around the world based around classic cars. No one looks at a guy in a classic car and sits there and goes, "Oh, he must be a one percenter." It's just not a thing. So for me, it was okay. Well, the ride itself, for safety reasons, we make sure that we go through the main streets of the city. It means it keeps the speed down. Visually, a lot of people get to see it. We get to break that stereotype city by city on a global scale. Whereas the drive itself, it was okay. Well, let's take this opportunity to actually get out of the city. There's no doubt that we create congestion with motorcycles in a calculated way. But if you were to have the same amount of classic cars, we would have much larger issues that would have to be faced with council, police, and any other sort of institution locally. So the idea was, well, let's get out of the city and let's just get together and bond and create these friendships and go for a drive together. And there's something to be said that even going on a drive together is sort of personality building and connects you with other drivers as well, because there's always something going wrong with classic cars on the side of the road coming together to help fix them and get through to that end destination. So the Distinguished Gentleman's Drive has been great. It's been a difficult one because we sort of wanted to launch that, and then obviously COVID hit. But it's growing nicely. It's growing organically, and I think even last year we had I think it was about 150 different drives globally. So it's nothing on the sheer scale of the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. And it's not there to compete. It's just an alternative for people that have classic cars that want to dress up and raise funds for Movember.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I can't wait to this September find out where it's happening as close as it can to be to my house and go watch that. That sounds fantastic. I do have a 1926 Ford Model T in the garage. I inherited it from my uncle a number of years ago. The disadvantage there is it only goes about 20 miles an hour, and it doesn't go very far and breaks down a lot. So,
well, funnily enough, some of the drives are quite long. We're talking, some of them might go for, 100 mile maybe. But some of the drives are smaller for those vehicles that are super classic, or even if you've got a really small capacity vehicle. There's a Fiat 500 drive in Italy that only goes 20 mile or something along those lines, because they just don't have the same sort of power as the bigger cars. But it's much more. There's a lot more diversity in that. It's a little bit stricter in the fact that it's just pre-1980s vehicles. But ultimately, our goal with that one is to not be too much of a burden on the road either. And everything that we do is very calculated in a way that it's, we ultimately know that if we grow these events to the scale city by city where they're too large, that we will get shut down. And there's no benefit in us in that social connectivity and bringing people together and the funds that we raise for Movember if we're not allowed to host events at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have to ask you about the videos that you have out on YouTube. They are so well produced. So many of them are so well produced. I got to tell you, my absolute favorite, and I don't have the author in front of me at the moment, but what I do is a search for Distinguished Gentleman's Ride Italy, and it comes up, and it starts off with a bartender, and the next scene is a gentleman sipping a coffee. Then a lady rides up on a Triumph, and the music changes, and I've watched that 50 times. Do you know, you happen to know the one I'm talking about?
No, you're gonna have to send me a link on that one. It's there's a lot of videos, and it's amazing because I mean I think it shows just how deeply this connects with people. I mean, these videos aren't videos that we're paying to create. These are videos that people are doing off their own back and having a lot of fun with it. Obviously, we get the benefit of being able to use them, which is great for us. But no, I'll definitely need a link for that one.
I will send it to you. Not only that is the second song that it jumps into early in the video. I was so impressed with that. I got out my phone and no, I was about to say I went to SoundHound, but no, it was actually listed who the artist was in the video. And then I found them on Spotify, and then I put that on my favorites list on Spotify. That the song was just so well done. But there's so many. It seems like you said that people with such a wonderful spirit and really putting the spirit and the motion of the DGR on video along with music is just fantastic, over the top, fantastic.
It actually led to an idea that we had a few years ago, where obviously we were sort of using Sydney to produce, and our friends over here to help us produce the launch videos for all the Gentlemen's Ride campaigns.
Mhm.
And then a couple of years ago, we sort of looked at all those videos and gone, you know what? Let's just find people that take part in DGR, that have fun with DGR, that raise funds for DGR, and let's just put it on their city to come up with a concept and create a video. So the last two DGR launch videos have actually been managed by our network in those cities. And I think the goal for us is, let's do a different city every year. Let's show people how diverse this is. Let's show people how multicultural this is, and that irrespective of what city you're from, your culture, and all the rest of it, everyone is taking part in the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's truly magic when you see some of those sort of smaller countries just having the exact same amount of passion as some of the key cities like LA or New York, Sydney, London, etc. And they do it so well. And we were really excited when we received the launch video from this year, from our friends in Malta, and they just fantastic job. We were all having a little bit of a laugh at certain points of it. We were all excited to ride motorbikes by the end of it. And the goal is next year, all right, let's see what other city, what other country can sort of come up with the launch concept, and let's continue to, over how long this event may last, let's continue to show people a different side from different areas around the world.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I think you kind of alluded to it. I know I would imagine that this has at times been a heavy load to bear. A lot of responsibility, a lot of questions to be answered, and a lot of interviews like I'm doing right now. But it sounds like though that you've got a wonderful staff there with the same heart, a lot of great ideas, and you've got a lot of good positive support behind you. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's been a journey, and I mean we do have fantastic staff, and we punch well above our weight in the fact that obviously we're limited in resources, but the event is so global. But I think a lot of that also comes down to the systems that we've got in place, the procedures that we've got in place, and they've gotten better over the years. I mean, what people don't realize when they sort of look at this event is just how much work goes into it. But also, we couldn't copy anyone else. There was no other event on a global scale that basically brought this many people together for a cause. And so for us, we couldn't sit there and look at even Movember, for instance, how they grow moustaches. We couldn't look at that and use that as a blueprint to how to launch this. So really, it all had to come from ourselves. There were a lot of hurdles to jump, and there's not a day that goes by that we're not sort of jumping some sort of hurdle everywhere, because you're running a large scale event across a lot of different jurisdictions. And the rules are different everywhere that you go around the world. And, even when you look from an insurance perspective, insurance has changed from around the world as well. So it's a huge undertaking, but the right staff are on this and the right people are hosting these events. They're guys and girls that are passionate about what we do. They're passionate about the bikes. They're passionate about supporting people that aren't themselves So when you sort of bring this beautiful formula together, it obviously leads to a successful event because, as you said at the start, $37.5 million US in the last 11 years of sort of charity fundraising. This is now our 12th year of the event, and the fundraising is extremely strong for this year. So obviously we must be doing something right along with all of our support network.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mark, from a guy sitting on the other side of the planet from you right now, I just want to tell you thank you, just from the bottom of my heart for having the heart that you have, but not only that, but taking a bold step and risking failure to step out and do something like this, which has turned out to be just a tremendous success and has literally changed and saved the lives of so many people around the world. The world's blessed by having a guy like you. So I just want to personally thank you, just from one guy to you, among many, I'm sure, to thank you very much for all you've done.
And I appreciate it. I mean, you can never hear that enough. There is a lot of work, and there's still a lot of work to do to support the guys that are taking part in this event, and to support the guys that sort of are aware of the event even more than we currently do. But we continue to work on it, and we've got the right team. We've got Movember on board, and we've got guys like you on board. And I think for us, when I first started this, I sort of sat there and thought, okay, well, that was awesome. That kicked ass. That was fun. And then, we started to focus more on the charity aspect. But there was this part of me that always sat there and thought, okay, well, how long is an event like this going to last? Is this a fad? Do we have a certain time frame on this until people get bored? And the truth of the matter is, I always thought that this was going to be, probably a 10-year event. And, being in the 12th year and having numbers that are stronger year on year than every year for the last 12 years really shows me sometimes how little I know.
Well, again, you took a bold step forward, and you didn't have to. And so thank you for that. And, well, I'll wrap up our recording now. But again, Mark, I thank you very much for your time. I can't wait to tell our group in Fort Collins, Colorado, that I had a chance to talk with you. And again, thank you for all you do. I so appreciate it.
Thanks for having me as well. Really appreciate it, Ron.
Well, thank you for listening today to the second and final portion of my interview with my hero, Mark Hawwa, the founder of the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. I must admit that I was a little bit nervous, and it may be evident in the recording. I just so admire Mark and his organization for what they've done. My goal is to someday shake Mark's hand and maybe give him a hug and just tell him thank you for the great things that he and his organization have done for men just like me. Again, thank you for listening today and for telling your friends about this podcast. I so appreciate it. So until we visit again, I wish you peace. I wish you love.